So there are some things that I look for when I'm working with a recruiter. Generally speaking, most recruiters are going to have your best interest in mind. Some are not going to. It's a numbers game to them. They're just going to submit as many people to as many jobs as they can and hope that some of them stick. Mm-hmm. Here's how you tell. Should you use a recruiter? Yes or no?
I mean, if you don't have an in, it's always worth a shot.
It's the second best option, yeah, because the recruiter has. I don't think people realize this, but recruiters actually have. Most recruiters have
good recruiters.
Yeah, have a relationship with the business they're trying to recruit you to. So they understand the culture, they understand the requirements of the job. They're usually finding out about these jobs before they make their way onto ZipRecruiter. Mm-hmm. So when you use a recruiter, you're generally one of the first people to apply for it. Also, if you use a recruiter, I have found the companies that use firms generally are willing to pay more. They tend to not be so stingy. Yeah, because there's a premium. If you're using a recruiter for a direct hire role, it's usually 20 to 25% of whatever your starting salary is. Mm-hmm. The company has to pay out in cash the day you start. It's like a signing fee. Or
is it 22% of what your rate is, or is it 20?
It's so like if you're using a recruiter to do a direct hire, that means
so it's a temporary placement meant for becoming a full-time employee.
No, it's you become a full-time employee. Direct hire is
there's no this is like boom. Like yeah. they're finding the candidates for you.
Yeah. So some companies have like their internal recruiters, other companies use third-party recruiters. For a direct hire, it's 20 to 25% of whatever your starting salary is. That is a fee that the company pays to the recruiter. And
then you get all your stuff on top of that after.
Now some companies will factor that fee in when they're sort of figuring out what do I want to pay you. You want to make sure that you're getting paid a fair market rate. And if you see that your offer is lower than what the market says it should be, the company is probably like penalizing you for the fact that they're using a firm. Don't work there. But generally speaking, companies that use firms tend to pay more competitive rates. And the recruiting firm is incentivized to get you a higher salary rate, because they're it's kind of like they're kind of like your agent. Mm-hmm. The more money you make, the more money they make, because it's all percentage based.
But like in that case though, like what identifies to you that they've got your best interest in mind, right? Because really that model, like it's selling a car, right? You're just trying to
you're just a body.
You're on the lot, and I'm trying to get you out, right?
So there are some things that I look for when I'm working with a recruiter. Generally speaking, most recruiters are going to have your best interest in mind. Some are not going to. It's a numbers game to them. They're just going to submit as many people to as many jobs as they can and hope that some of them stick. Mm-hmm. Here's how you tell. You want to make sure the recruiter understands not just the job description, because that's easy.
Yeah.
They need to understand the project and the team.
Yeah.
If they know that, then when they're considering candidates, they're not just factoring in, do you meet all 12 of the bullet points? They're asking themselves, do I believe this person's going to be successful for this type of work?
And I know we've had that conversation on being in the hiring manager spot of like, talking with the recruiter and just being like, hey, these are the projects that we have in line. This is what it is. These are the skills.
Yeah, I hate when I use firms. I hate when they just say, give me a job description. I want to give them almost a project description.
Yeah.
What is the type of work that we're going to be doing? And I need them to understand the team. And that usually involves them coming on site, meeting the team, talking to me directly. There's a lot that goes into a firm understanding the culture. Yeah. But a lot of these firms have had long-standing relationships with these companies for years, in some cases decades. So there is a benefit to using a recruiter. And if the recruiter is factoring in the project, the team, the culture, in what they present you for, that's a good sign. The other thing I like to do, and I got to be careful with this because I don't want to make this, it's going to sound like a blanket statement, and it's not, but it kind of is. Don't use a nationwide recruiting firm. And there might be some good ones out there. I've worked for some. But generally speaking, a nationwide recruiting firm, it's a numbers game. There's no intimacy in the experience at all. It's a weird word to use, intimacy, but like
the relationship building
it's just not there. Yeah, it's just not there. Like we generally find better success when we work for smaller, locally private owned firms.
And local might be in the region. Right?
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be like in
State
your city.
or city, yeah. But just stay away from the nationwide ones because a lot of times, like you got an office in Houston, you got an office in Chicago, you got an office in New York, and it's all remote work, right? And the guy from Houston's calling New York and it's like, "Hey, I got a job. Do you got anybody?" And it's like, "Yeah, I got 3 guys. I'll send them over your way." It's so impersonal, and there's no real consideration for.
Well, because if in that situation, they might be asking you to uproot your life, and
which I've seen firsthand, and I've seen it not work. So yes, just try to stay local. I believe that the recruiter is the second best option, because if you're waiting for that posting to be on Indeed or LinkedIn,
just to get them out of the equation,
you're too late. There's already been 100 people submitted to that job.
Or that job might already been filled.
Yeah. People would be surprised how many jobs are filled just by people talking to each other and saying, "Hey, I have an opening. Do you know anybody?" That's either going to happen to like somebody internal at the company, or it's going to happen to a recruiter or a firm who's maintaining that relationship.
Yeah. And this is back to having somebody to speak on your behalf, is because, again, they've already kind of vetted out that first round of interviews. So now the likelihood of that person being a good fit and stuff is just higher and higher as it goes.
So I should say I work for, you and I both work for a recruiting firm, and we're not going to name them, but the way that I like to place people is I like to interview the candidate. I'm not a recruiter. I'm a practice lead.
Yeah, and I'm also not a recruiter.
Yeah, but we work with recruiters. But as a practice lead, I'm often asked to screen candidates to make sure that they're a good fit for a company. And at that point, I care more about the culture and the project than I do the job description. I don't really spend too much time looking at the resume and the job description when I'm screening candidates. I look at the project, and then I try to ask as many questions to figure out, do I believe they're going to be able to do the work and they're going to like the work?
Yeah. And part of it too is and this isn't true of all businesses, but some of them might be coming to solve a problem. I mean, probably a temporary problem to, and that's where it's important, again, to have that person understand what are the skills that they're really looking for, because the job description might not match.
It often doesn't. And you can tell. Like, I was looking at one job description, and it was for a UI UX person, and I could clearly tell they took the full stack developer job description and they put 3 bullet points on the bottom for UI UX and a bunch of other stuff like Figma, stuff that you typically wouldn't see with a full stack developer. And I immediately spoke to the business development manager who spoke to the client, and we figured out almost right away they need a UI UX person. They don't need a full stack developer. Yep. So yeah, and that's just HR being HR. That's just them saying, "Hey, we need this job description. Let's use this as a template and just throw on 3 bullet points."
Especially for a job position that doesn't exist. Sometimes too, like
they'll just take what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're deciding a recruiting firm to work with, just try to make sure that they're trying to fit you for the company and the project, the company and the work, and not just the job description. Ask questions that they would have to be able to answer if they knew those things, like how big's the team? What's the culture like? What's the composition? How many contractors versus full-time? Ask questions that you generally wouldn't be able to discern from a job posting.
Yeah, what's their sprint cadence?
If they can't answer it, it's probably not a firm you should be using.
Mm-hmm.
But I do advocate strongly for recruiting firms because in my 20-ish years of doing this, I've only ever found jobs through recruiters and through friends. And I've had a lot of success with it, but you got to pick the right recruiter. You can't just go to the big box name and say, here's my resume, go find me a job.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is for like the tech jobs. I hate firms that rely exclusively on tests, like a placement test.
Oh, like with just like multiple choice
Yeah,
or something?
take a placement test.
Or you're certified for whatever.
Yeah, if they do that, that's usually a red flag for me because it shows that they don't
know how to screen.
Yeah, they don't know how to screen. They don't take a lot of care in it. At our company, we use a firm that we outsource it. But the way that screening happens is it's a person talking to you and asking you questions. It's not fill in this multiple choice thing. I forget the name of the company, but they're a very reputable firm. And I mean, I found out that they basically they do a tech interview the way you and I did, where it's asking tough questions, trying to understand how do you think, how do you approach problems, that sort of stuff. It's not a multiple choice question that you can use ChatGPT for while you're taking it. So that's another like red flag too, is if you're given like a blanket screening to do that's multiple choice, I would probably choose a different
or something
firm.
that doesn't feel
personal.
Yeah, personal.
Yeah.